And now, coming to you from the Pensado Media Center, powered by Westlake Pro.
Our guest is going to teach us a lot about the indie art rock world. We've got a Happy New Year sweepstakes from the good folks at Avid and Isotope. NAMM is coming up, lots of stuff to share with you there. The Master Blaster has a brand new ITL. It's 2017, and you're at the place. It's Pensado's place. Yay.
Glad you guys dropped by for the new year. A lot of cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff.
Shall we get to it?
Let's do it.
Dave's correct. There is a lot of cool stuff. First of all, thank you for last year. Happy New Year this year. We want good things for you. Wish good things for us, and let's do it together. We're going to bring a lot of things your way. As we alluded to earlier, a great sweepstakes from the folks at Avid and Isotope. They just wanted to kick off the year, really reward you for all the blessings you've given them and us and vice versa. So for the next 4 weeks, you can win a number of these things. From really cool software from both of them, some hardware toward the end, 4 to 5 weeks. Go to this link right here, enter the information, become eligible. Winners over the next 4 weeks. Thank you to Avid and Isotope.
Yes, absolutely.
As we talked about earlier, NAMM, our winter break is coming up. You excited about it?
I am, as always.
It's really cool, right?
I get giddy.
Yeah, we do. So at the Avid booth, you want to get there around 12:15, 12:30 and get a shot. Thursday the 19th, we've got Jimmy Douglas, incredible talent.
Jimmy, I love
Gets
Jimmy.
even better. On Friday the 20th, Butch Vig.
Butch, boy.
Legend, bad boy.
Yeah.
And on Saturday the 21st, we got some members of Maroon 5 coming by.
Yep.
You don't want to miss that. Jimmy Douglas on Thursday, Butch Vig on Friday, Maroon 5 on Saturday. Plenty of giveaways. We're going to introduce some new things. You want to be at that booth. Gets better. Saturday afternoon, around 3 o'clock, we're going to do another show. Can't tell you the guest yet, but I can tell you the location.
There's alcohol involved. That's all they need to know.
Alcohol will be involved at the second show on Saturday. Now, that will be at the Audiodynamics and Westlake Pro booth. Yeah. Big old booth, lots of stuff, plenty of things to sign up for, get a little taste, do a little hang. We're going to have a big name guest we're going to announce shortly.
Looking forward to that one.
It's going to be great. And Dave and I are going to be around all during the time. One of the things we talked about before NAMM is just what it means to us to mix. Expound on that.
Well, we've said it several times. Meeting you guys live is just a wonderful thing. Always something good comes out of it.
It does.
For both of us, and can't wait for that again.
Yeah, and we want to.
I look forward to the most.
It is the best. We get to shake hands, take pictures, give stuff away, get feedback from you. We're planning on lots of new things with the show.
Yeah.
So again, NAMM coming up. 19, Jimmy Douglas. 20, Butch Vig. 21, we've got Maroon 5. Then a second show on Saturday, only the 21st, at the Westlake Pro and Audiodynamics booth. Ridiculous. We'll announce that guest shortly. And Dave and I will be at various places. We're going to stop by Augsburg, and we're going to stop by Atheon. We're going to stop by McDSP and Isotope, all these different places. Come on. NAMM is coming up. So we look forward to seeing you there. So you have been woodshedding these incredible ITLs. You want to drop one of them on us?
Well, yeah, I'm pretty proud of this one. It's a technique I use a lot on parallel drum bus technique. And I think you're going to find a lot of uses for this beyond just the drum bus. Check it out.
Cool. Roll it.
Hey guys, I've been lately really trying to figure out ways to parallel my drum bus and get a little more in my faceness, get a little bit more, just more of everything. So I want to share this with you. It's a little different. I probably showed you parts of this before, but I'm going to show you a different combination of things. So here's my drum bus in the track. This is a cool track. It's called Low Key by Connor Phillips, and it's produced by Alessandro Kalima, and it's all put together and orchestrated by my friend Sundafu. So check this out. we got this this track right here. This is going to be our parallel track. You see, I just copied this in drums. So here we go. that's what I'm doing. This little compressor, I showed it to you a long time ago. Here's the new version of it. I think Audified has created something that should be in everybody's arsenal. A lot of what we thought was vinyl in terms of the process of getting records to sound cool, a big chunk of that was actually the limiter that was involved. And this was that limiter kept the cutting head from burning up, kept the dynamic range suitable for vinyl, because vinyl doesn't have a lot of dynamic range. And so when people stopped making records, or vinyl records, someone ran across a couple of these old cutting lathes and noticed that the limiter in it was pretty cool. So they took the limiter out, and it became kind of like a little secret weapon in Europe for a long time in the 70s. No, I guess probably more 80s and 90s, maybe 90s. And so the guys at Audified, the gifted guys at Audified, took that and did a very, very exhaustive, extensive replication of it. And this is it. If you're so inclined, you can actually keep it in the original German that it was in. Now, let's do something. Let's mute some of the music so you can hear what's going on. That gives it kind of like a, I don't know how to say it. It just gives it a vibe, doesn't it? Let me play just the parallel for you. Turn it up a little bit. Okay, turn it back down because we're about to get loud again. So this is also a big chunk of where the sound is coming from. Let's turn this up. Well, you can't tell, but let's zero it out this way. And watch the high end. You hear it brings out a lot of the groove. Listen to the groove. Feel the groove. Feel the groove. You have to use your imagination because I'm down 8 million dBs over here. Just enough to make the drums come a little bit forward, right? Pretty cool stuff. Check out the U73B by Audified, and everybody's got the MV2. Experiment with this knob over here on vocals and stuff. It acts kind of like an expander. This side is more or less just the I guess it's the RVox compressor. Good stuff, good stuff. So many uses for this, but parallel with the drums, combined with this this old school compressor that's very accurately copied. Cool stuff. Okay.
Right before the holidays, we had a chance to go back to Cambridge specifically, to the incredible Isotope headquarters, right near MIT. Yeah. Spent a few days with those guys, had a great time. Yeah. And one of the first people we had a discussion with was Josh Hager. Yeah. Josh is not only a veteran of the Boston scene, really knows the indie artwork thing, got Stats as an engineer, Stats as a producer, tours with Devo, and is just a great, great guy, right? Didn't you enjoy it?
I learned a lot.
Yeah, Josh is a great guy. So we wanted to share with you our conversation with Josh Hager from the Isotope headquarters in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Hey guys, it's great to see you. We're on the road and we've got a bunch of really cool guests. We've been sitting with our Isotope friends. As you can see, we're in their mastering suite. And our first guest is one of the denizens of the Massachusetts music scene, doing some really incredible things. We had a chance to get him. We couldn't wait to get him. Has a really interesting legacy. Family members also in music. Please welcome to the desk. Actually, it's different. It's to the kind of case, the coffee table, the cool set at Isotope. Please welcome.
Professional designer accessory is what I call that.
That's precisely right, because what you can't see is a Beatles book, a mix magazine, a recording
and an
magazine,
behind
guitar player, and an Emmy. That's the way Isotope rolls, and that's the way our guest rolls. Please welcome to the desk, Josh Hager. Hey, man.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Good to see you.
Very cool.
Josh, so what size flower pot do you wear? A 1.5 liter, 2 liter?
A medium.
A medium
Yes,
flower pot?
medium flower
You
pot.
prefer the red flower pot? Is that still
I
in
prefer
vogue?
the red over the blue, yeah.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, explain for our audience where that question came from.
So some people call it a flower pot, but it actually came from I believe Jerry said it was the light fixture on a fan in his school.
Oh, you're kidding.
In his childhood school. And and he took it, I think they took them out of the school and his friend got him one.
Mm-hmm.
And he made molds and modified it so it was 3 layers instead of 5.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, and he used to stare at that every day, he said. So
And
that's
that
what got the
is a
idea.
trademark of the group,
It is, yeah.
of the group Devo.
Yeah.
Remind me, what was
Correct.
Jerry's last name?
Casale?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you get to stand in and work with the group, with Devo, correct?
Right, yeah. So Bob too passed away, and they needed somebody to play his parts live and that sort of thing. And, I just fill in,
Sure.
and...
But what an honor, though, correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I
yeah.
mean, you get to honor an amazing musical contributor, get to fill in periodically with the band,
Yeah.
to play those parts and do that stuff, and just, I mean, that's one of the most seminal bands in music.
Oh, yeah.
And they're
For me,
yeah, and I think
throughout
for
all time,
well, yeah, and I think Dave's point is
They-
correct for all
when
of
they
us.
did Satisfaction on SNL, the world changed.
Yeah.
The world changed.
Well, the thing about the impact of it and what we're finding, and one of the reasons we came to Boston, is there are so many musical folks here that not only have moved the meter in big ways, but continue to move it in independent ways. Like for instance, we spoke yesterday at Isotope. We're in Isotope Studios, and I think Dave asked the question, how many of you guys are musicians? And about 100% of the room raised their hands.
Right.
We've never seen that,
We
percentage before.
literally have not seen that percentage before. And then afterwards, in talking to them, on the board of the company on what to do was all the different employees when they were playing live gigs.
Oh,
and going
right. Yeah, I
places
did see that,
as part of
yeah.
the culture. So when we came to Boston, and part of the reason we wanted to have you on was, what is it about? Is it the concentration of folks back here? Is it there's something about the spirit of this city that has to do with music and contributing to music? What would you attribute it to?
Well, it is a big college town.
Ah,
And
that's for sure.
Good Lord.
but the scene is always shifting because clubs are always closing, and people have to find new places to perform. There was a lot of basement shows for a while. That was a big thing. Back in the day, it was loft shows, and that's all gone. But yeah, it's a real tight knit community. It's a small town,
Right.
I mean, very small.
That's the
Yeah.
other thing that I picked up. When we travel, or when anybody travels, the international airport is usually farther from the city that you
that's
live
right,
in.
Herb.
We were from Logan to it was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's not a regional airport. And so what's so cool about it is that closeness that I
Yeah.
think you're talking about feels like it has its own energy.
Yeah, a lot of downtown areas in major cities are not what I would call vibrant.
Yeah.
And I've only been here 2 days, but it seems like to Herb's point, I said to Herb's point, like you say that a lot, to Dave's point. It's a vibrant downtown area. It feels
is, yeah.
alive,
Well, there's a lot of you know, you have MIT, you have Harvard, you have all this other stuff going on outside of music. I think also that gentrification has had a big impact in a negative way on the music scene in Boston.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, back in the 80s,
In the
80s and
day.
90s, there were way, you know, there's clubs everywhere. There was just, we had WBCN, we had FNX, we had the Phoenix.
Wow.
We had like all this support, this big support system for music. And
Where did Aerosmith get their start? What club? I used to know the name of that.
Not that.
That was a good time period for Boston.
That was before me. I heard that they started in high schools, though. They used to tour high schools.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's like Van Halen in L.A. Yeah. So, and we've seen this gentrification push out. So, between the college, is a lot of the scene here the indie scene? Because what it feels to me is that the goal may not necessarily be, I've got to go sign to a major and become
like it used to be.
Yeah, people are playing and they're enjoying.
Well, you have
and using
Berklee College
technology.
of Music and the Conservatory as well. So that's
true.
You know, there's a lot of jazz, a lot of indie rock, a lot of art rock. I don't know much about the hip hop scene here, but I hear this pretty vibrant hip hop scene.
New additions from here. Bill Bedvo's from here. A lot of people are from here.
Bobby Brown.
Bobby Brown.
Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown. I love Bobby.
You handled that properly.
Hey, I got one last. I'm sorry, Herb.
That's all right. No, I was going to say, the other thing that there's the ability to sort of be where you need to be is part of what we see in the music scene today.
Right.
So you grow up here, you work here, you do your thing here, but you really can work anywhere. You can work in New York, you work in LA, you can work in Europe.
Yeah.
So do you work in different places?
I do. I work a lot in, I work a lot in Los Angeles.
Okay.
My brother's out there. He's an engineer. A lot of times we
Great
partner
engineer.
up.
Oh, cool.
And do things, or I'll do side projects with some of the Devo guys, mostly Jerry.
Oh, cool.
I'll do projects in Manchester, England. I go there a lot, or Stockholm, Sweden. I have a lot of friends there.
Very international.
Yeah,
yeah.
Gotta get those miles. going,
That's right.
and New York, not so much New York lately though. A lot of my friends that I used to work with have moved from there.
We see that a lot too.
Yeah.
We see actually when we had an East Coast choice, we chose here. Not anti-New York, but there was just more of a scene.
Yeah.
We see a lot of people moving from New York to
New York's
other
gotten
places.
very expensive. Brooklyn even has gotten very expensive.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Very hard for musicians.
Yep.
One last Devo question. It hasn't happened often, but every once in a while I've replaced a guitar player or filled in for a guitar player in a band, mostly not known bands. And so I have to make a decision. Do I duplicate his parts? Do I do me? Do I do a combination?
Right.
When you fill in for Devo, what's your thought process? Do you try to duplicate his parts? Do you try to put a little you in it?
No, I try and present it as accurately as I possibly can, because to me,
To the record or to their live performances or both?
to both. I think when I first started doing it, Bob.
Well, that's a tough decision.
Well, I didn't even think about it. I mean, if it was another band, I probably would have thrown a little something else in. But I think with Devo, I mean, Bob too. I mean, those are some big shoes to fill. He was like a major hero to me.
Yeah.
And so what I did, I only had I think 4 days from the time I got the phone call to auditioning, and then we did the gig the next week. But I remember going back and waking up super early, running the set in my studio, going upstairs and watching like 3 or 4 hours of footage of all of their live performances and getting all the nuances and the choreography and like little hand flip thing he would do on this part of the song.
Yeah.
And I just, my whole thing with that was to try and honor him and keep it going.
Did you master the little robot moves and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, he
What size overalls did you wear? What did you wear? Orange?
Well, that's the funny thing. When we first did but the first gig we had was Chicago Bulls Arena, opening for Arcade Fire. It was a double bill. And
So that wasn't that long ago.
I didn't know if I was going to be on stage or behind a curtain.
Okay.
And here we are, 15 minutes to go on. I don't know, 10,000 people or whatever, 10. And Jerry says, "Oh, well, why don't you try the suit on? If it fits, and Bob was relatively the same height as me and same size. Put the suit on. He goes, all right, you can go on stage.
So just like that.
I
boom.
didn't know up until that moment if
Wow.
I was going to be on stage or off stage just playing the parts.
That's incredible.
So fortunately, I had studied all the choreography and the moves, so I could just slip into it.
Sure.
And get into character in a way. You know,
That's the fun about playing in a band is you don't have to be yourself.
right? Yeah. And one of the earlier bands I was in, I had a lot of kabuki makeup and things like that, and they were definitely characters. So it was a bit like acting, where well, with that band, it was a little further where you wouldn't even remember the show afterwards.
Gotcha.
Go
There's
so
much
far
going
into
on.
it.
Got it. But what a kudos to you. What a great way to honor somebody.
Yeah, and I'd met him, over the years because I helped on certain aspects of the last record they did, and he was a great guy, very funny. Yeah.
So what we found when we have guests who find themselves in just that kind of creative cauldron where people think outside the box and
Right.
stuff like that, does that stimulate the way you think about things? Are there other kinds of projects that become interesting?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. And well, you start getting into like the process of how these guys view things,
Yeah.
and how things come about. Like, hey, how did you do Satisfaction? Well, that was us trying to do reggae. Oh, okay, I can see how
That
that
makes sense,
or
yeah.
how Mark would visually see something when he's just you're sitting in a lounge and he's just scribbling something, he's watching somebody, But you pick up on all that. And I have another project with a couple guys from New Order. It's called Shadow Party. So it's myself, the drummer from Devo, Jeff Friedel, and Tom and Phil from New Order, and Nick McCabe from The Verve.
Oh, cool.
Damn,
And we
that felt like a little indie all-star band.
Right? And
Well,
Denise
actually,
Johnston from
not
Primal
indie, really.
Scream, who's
Oh, nice.
ace.
Right.
But putting that together and saying, well, all right, what if we take some aspects of Devo and aspects of Joy Division and New Order and put it together and have Nick McCabe throw his thing on and just to see
Man,
what happens.
Please keep the show informed of your progress, and
then
we'd like
come
to
on the
follow
show.
that.
Yeah, okay,
then come on the
yeah.
show.
Let me ask you
Absolutely.
something, which is what I'm here for. One of the things that I got from the appearance of Devo on Saturday Night Live was if you're going to try and do something new, and the reason that a lot of people don't try to push, I don't like push the envelope that saying, but a lot of reasons people don't like to try something new is because you open yourself up for a tremendous amount of ridicule and hatred. And there was no more hated band in the world than Devo after that.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, it scared me to kind of deviate,
Yeah.
Devo, and de-evolve. And it did give me the confidence to ultimately be willing to do things that weren't in my comfort zone.
Right.
And I don't think they get credit for that, but that's the foundation of all the independent music you see. That's the foundation of what makes Herb Herb. He's fearless, and I'm not fearless like Herb, but when I sit behind a console, I think of that moment of how to accept rejection and how to use it correctly and how to trust your instincts and the preference to live or die by your taste as opposed to try and alter your taste. And if people didn't like what I did, I don't know what I'd do for a living. How did that relate to you? Because you love the indie scene, obviously. Joy Division,
Right.
New Order, all the bands that you like
Well, it's
were
interesting.
going against the grain. How does a young kid today become comfortable doing that? Because we're not, as a culture, encouraging that right now.
Yeah, it seems like the rebellion has been squashed.
A little bit.
And
Or
everybody's...
it's hard to find the rebellious people now.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a conformist bent where everyone's starting to look the same, whether it's beards and buns or whatever.
Yeah.
The
Beards
trend,
and buns.
whatever the trend is. But it's interesting you say that because...
I'm now thinking about man knots.
I know.
Right.
I didn't start the day doing that, but you're absolutely
but there's
right.
a
Let me go on the
definite...
record. I'm going to start. Let me go on the record. If you ever see me do that, just put your foot up my ass as
You're
far
going
as
down the
it'll go.
stairs.
The good leg.
I'll just cut it off. Go ahead.
But it's interesting you bring that up because Bernard Sumner, Jerry Casale, and even I saw in a Bowie interview, they all pretty much say the same thing. You get to a point where you finish a song or you get to where you think it's good. You have to go a little further in order to put, or as Bowie would say, you go out into the ocean until your feet can't quite touch the bottom and you're in the right spot.
That's
like
what a
that.
great metaphor.
But it seems to me, I mean, maybe it's just my personal experience or maybe I'm getting old, but it seems that there's a very politically correct culture right now, and that the rebellion or what people would consider rebellion isn't really that rebellious. It's more conformist, you know, as opposed to, say, from 1977 to 83, what was going on, or even in the 60s, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that possibly what's out there is because I see some music that has that rebellious sort of tenor, and what there isn't is the same platforms that will allow it to sort of gestate and be heard by everybody.
Right.
People are sort of in their pockets, and if you're not searching for it, because there's so much music now that you kind of have to find. So every now and then, some will be an anarchist, and Kendrick Lamar will do something crazy, but he'll have a platform.
I was just thinking about Kendrick's new record. That's the poster child for.
But he has a platform that will go big, so he just feels like one guy, or there's
Plus,
two or three guys.
There's the nothing's shocking at this point. What is being done that you haven't seen the Clash or somebody else do?
It's a
that
big
you
problem.
know.
We become desensitized to.
Yeah.
But also, to me, I agree with both of you guys 100%. It feels like the transition periods between leaps in technology can stimulate that person. So whether you like Elvis or not, he was different. And without 45s, there wouldn't have been an Elvis, on and on and on. So then you have, without MTV, there wouldn't have been a Madonna, there wouldn't have been a lot of groups. But, but there's that transition period where the first videos on MTV were god-awful, except for the Buggles, Video Killed the Radio Star, the first song they ever played. Yeah. And I think the technology right now is confusing a lot of creative people, including myself. And that transition is sloppy right now. Yeah. And I think when we get on the other, we were talking about, Herb and I, with the employees yesterday, and it'll work itself out, but how it works itself out will ultimately determine how you rebel, because right now we don't know what to rebel against. well, to an extent.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as a creative person who works in that kind of creative environment where you can take chances, one of the things I think we're all dealing with, because we tend to believe that we're all kind of hybrid folks now. There used to be specialists, and there's hybrid folks. And I think a lot of the creativity and anarchy is actually in video, because there's platforms for it, and people can go find it.
If you want to watch music now, we don't listen to music anymore.
Because there's a place to go. I mean, if you wanted to go catch music, you basically can go to YouTube and catch something. Yeah. But if you don't have something compelling visually with it, sometimes your story doesn't come across.
Plus, you don't have the DJs and the tastemakers. A lot of times were very important. I thought back in the day, they'd kind of direct people.
Radio DJs.
Yeah, radio DJs.
And that's become really flattened and commoditized.
Yeah, that's all pre-programmed.
But here's the opportunities, because I think that guys like yourself, who still carry the flag in some ways, who feel it kind of in their heart, and spend their time and have their own studios to do music like that. I do think that there's a large community out there. It's just disconnected. And whether it's a song that breaks through or something attaches to a movement, something cultural now needs to, it used to be that music led it, and then we'd react to it. You put music with Kent State, or there'd be a killing or an assassination, and music would define that. Now it seems like there's the event, and then do you take the opportunity to put music to it and catch it?
The Occupy movement, I thought, didn't quite materialize because it had no music behind it. The musicians didn't get behind it.
I played one of those with Noam Chomsky.
Did you really?
Yeah, the Occupy, the Boston one. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, the other thing that we found in this last presidential election, we were involved in several different music things to try to support certain sides of it.
Right.
And it was a range of things. It wasn't just one thing, but it never connected musically because everything happens on television. It was about the event.
Let me clarify. We supported the other side.
Well,
I don't want to be mistaken.
well, yeah. I mean, but
I'm not very political, but
but
the Democrats asked me to help them out, so
But
ask us
do you
to help
think
them
that,
out.
that music is as important to kids, teenagers now as it was back in the day, as opposed to video games?
I
and
think it's
whatnot?
important, but it's different.
Yeah.
For us, we didn't have the entertainment options to choose from.
Right.
So sitting on a couch listening to an album would seem painful to me now. I just couldn't sit on a couch and
Flip
listen
the
to
record.
36 minutes
Yeah,
of
yeah.
music. But I also think that I think we're on the verge of some really good stuff happening. I
Yeah.
think Herb and I are blessed that a lot of people come up to us when they see us at live events, and I think it's a healthy music scene out there. There's a need to kind of curate it, and right now the new record labels are the playlists, and so there'll be some good playlists. Let me ask you this, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, and I'm not judging you in any way, but what are a few songs that you've been listening to lately, and where do you go to find new music?
A lot of times, I'll just hear from friends. Oh, have you checked out?
Same here. Same here.
But lately, I sort of get in a thing where I'll just find one record and I'll just dissect that record
You
and
and me
loop it.
too, man.
So
Me and you.
it's been Tame Impala Currents has been my go-to over the last week
Who?
or so.
Is that right?
Tame Impala.
Oh, Tame Impala, yeah.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I'm
they're
just
cool.
dissecting,
They're filling a
listening to
lane.
the
I
production,
love
the
them.
lyrics, and
Yeah.
you know.
Don't you love that dive though?
Oh,
and I do
yeah.
it in my car.
Yeah.
I just go over. My people who work with me hate riding with me because
'cause you're
there's
looping
just
it.
that one song, but you just keep finding something else.
Yeah,
And
like-
we encourage
yeah.
our audience to sort of marry that way because
Yeah.
it's like a book that there's a chapter and you get to the next chapter and there's another thing and there may or may not be an ending and
Black Star, the Bowie record.
yeah.
I just soak in it, for a while, and it's one of those definitely a multi-listen record where you keep hearing other layers in there, and
I'm doing that with Tribe Called Quest, the new one.
The new record's good.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I like the obvious songs when I first heard it. Now I like the whole record.
But
isn't it great when you find a record that when you first put it on, you're like, it's all right, and then you listen again, and you're like, it's pretty good, and then it just, then it turns out to be your favorite record of the year.
You know, in the food world, there's certain chefs, whenever they open a restaurant, you go because you love their food.
Yeah.
And Q-Tip has always been someone for me that had a taste range where, like, I discovered Bob Power through them. He always has a way of attracting talents top to bottom. So engineering, I listen to it for.
Yeah.
Production, I listen to it. And then as a music fan, you just can't beat it.
But you also are speaking to a point that I think we were making earlier, which is sometimes it's the leaders in the music scene who have to be daring.
Right.
Because, we could identify those
demanded.
heroes back in those days. And
Right.
it's harder now to say, that person or that lady or that on the plane here. I hit Chongo and I said, we flew on Virgin, and so, they have a pretty big musical selection. And there was a Peaches record, and, we mixed Peaches.
Oh, wow.
And
That record's doing really well.
and I was just so sometimes I think that we need to continue to foster
Let
an
me stop you real
environment.
quick.
Well, actually not. Let me
This is
stop in a
important.
second.
This is important.
We need to foster an environment where we encourage people to lead musically. Because sometimes now you can just make the music, put it out, and that's it.
It just
Never- and
disappears in an ocean, a drop in the ocean.
and you got to have a definitive personality that takes a stand for something and do something.
Well, let me ask you something.
Sure.
Being a former manager, I'm asking around. Let's say for this shadow party thing that I'm doing, I'm asking people, do you know any good managers? We want to put together a team for this, and I always get the same answer: no, there aren't any. They're all retired.
I would say this. I think that in today's world, it's much like you buying a customized suit. If you know exactly kind of the things you need or can get informed by that, is it a guy or lady who knows touring or knows social media or knows whatever or knows how to get you a deal, or who knows lawyering, or who knows.
Right.
Because the thing that people mistake about managers is, as the marketplace gets more complicated, the manager has to become more complicated.
Right.
And generally you grew people who had specialties. Here's a big touring guy. Here's a guy who's going to get your stuff on the radio, or here's a guy who can work a team. So if you're an indie and you have some, whatever the spirit of the project is, you actually then can hone your question down so it's not so broad, and then you'll get more specific answers.
Yeah,
and I'll help you with that.
I think a lot of artists are in the position where they now know how to record themselves, make the music, play the live show, and then they hit this wall where they're like, boom, how do I go out and promote
next?
my thing at the same time? Or how do I get a record deal? And now it seems with record deals that, take U2 for example.
Sure.
In today's world, they wouldn't have made it past Boy.
Right.
They'd be dropped. I mean, there's no artist development. They wouldn't have made it to War, or
You're 100% correct.
and I think that's a big thing. How many artists, they get a record deal and they could just become this amazing thing, but their first record didn't sell so well, and they
And
just
you're out.
disappear.
I think that something you alluded to earlier is part of what's happening today, which is informative for our audience, is you used to have artists who got supported much earlier in the evolution chain.
Yeah.
Not to use the word evolution too much, but and so let's say you just made your demo, and then all of a sudden somebody heard it, they got you to somebody, and then you had a manager, you had an agent, you had a publicist, you had a lawyer, and you had help along this defined path, because the other part is the path was defined.
Right.
Now
You
the
mean
path.
like the label gave you money to
Well,
do the...
not necessarily. You might have had your parents do the demo, and then
Oh,
the
I see.
manager said, I'll shop it, and then they would shop it, and then maybe a publishing company would get involved, and there was all these processes till you got to the label deal, and the label deal was the goal. Now that's not true. So there are as many people who are anti-label and think being in a major system sucks, and I think that's the majority
Look at Frank
of the
Ocean's new
music
record.
scene. But that's a guy who's popular. The people that I'm always speaking to, I think make up most of our audience, are people who never get to that level. Because Frank Ocean is at a major label level. He just says he eschews the label, but he's put the machinery in place to get that big. That's expensive to do. So what does everybody else do? And I think you describe the fact that now artists on their own can get much farther down the chain.
Yeah.
They can shoot their own video for no money. They can put it up and post it. They can start to get responses.
Book a tour.
They can try to book a tour. They can do. So a couple things happen. The learning curve as you keep falling and getting back up now takes you longer. And people always underestimate how much it costs to fail, because they keep trying to win. So when you go out and put your tour up and you fail, but you went out and toured, but you came back broke. So I'm not trying to be all negatives. It's just that when you learn the process along the way, you take on the risk. Then once you get there, the there is not defined. What is the there? You got a bunch of likes, you got a bunch of stuff. Did you really go on tour? Did you make money? And so what I find, Dave and I talked about this to Isotope yesterday, and it's amazing that you bring it up, is that we've got this wild, wild west with all these undefined goals that depend on what your goal is. You may achieve it and not have a career.
Right.
But you have talking points. I went on tour and I had 50,000 people like me, and this, that, and the other. Oh, and by the way, I filed for bankruptcy because I didn't make a dime.
Right.
And that's so I think what the onus is now is the marketplace has said you have tools and technology, utilize them. You have to define your win and not necessarily hold it up against somebody else's win.
Right.
It's just like news. We all now can pick our own news. We can pick what we want to hear, have it defined, get some background. It's up to us to know whether it's real sources, not real sources, does it play in a big world? And musicians shouldn't have all that to think about.
Well, then there's the Kickstarter thing too. Well, you should just go out and do a Kickstarter. But then a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm not really into begging.
Yeah.
I don't want to beg for my, they have this, it's a
pride thing.
Absolutely.
You've
created this thing, you've come this far, and now you're going to be like, oh, can I have,
Which may fail. which may fail, by the way.
Right.
Like, we've done them. We did a campaign. It just did okay.
When you're born with this face, begging becomes an art form that you master early in life.
Please like and subscribe to Pensado's Place, please.
Kickstarter.
Will you please go to the prom with me and not cancel last minute last year?
But what's fascinating about the discussion, I hope it is for our audience too, is that when you're in a community like the Boston community, when you have somebody from the Boston community who understands it, somebody who not only is inspired by it, has seen the evolution of it, goes and works other places.
Or de-evolution of it.
De-evolution of it, even better. Goes and works other places, has an opportunity to play inside a seminal band and stuff. Your perspective is so informed because you've gotten to see it at a bunch of different levels. And I think the lesson is that take that opportunity and then be smart about each stage. Don't let it define you or kill you. You got to just keep moving, and as you move and learn, you'll pick the goal that makes sense to you, and that's what happens sometimes when the marketplace allows you to do anything. Sometimes it's so much that it's hard to sort of define it, and what I challenge our folks to do, Dave and I talked about that, and we agree mostly, we split on a couple things, is to not make it all for those people what happens on the major side. Because so few people get there. The percentage of people that get to the major side now is less than 5%. When we were coming up, there was a defined way to do it. You could have a top 40 record and go on tour and make a living.
The
and do
90s,
stuff.
they were just like, here.
Yeah,
Oh,
also
my
heard,
God. Oh my God, it's crazy.
I recently fell in love with a band called Arizona, and I went to the label website to look them up, and there was like 99% of the acts the label had I'd never heard of
them,
and most of them hadn't even released anything. So that world is not what it used to be. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying it's
Just
different
different.
now.
Just
You
different.
have to be careful.
So the good news is that when you're working in LA, you got to come see us.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to.
You got to come see us. What you guys don't know, audience, is Dave virtually threatened Josh if Josh's brother doesn't come on the show. So you will be getting that.
I think we can get him.
So there was something physical that just about
He's
happened.
in town actually next week or the week after.
Okay.
Do you guys shoot the show in California?
We do.
Yeah.
We shoot the
Okay.
show
We have our own
not
meetings.
I'll
far,
get him on there. I'll
not
do it.
far from you,
Yeah.
from what we talked about, and then and so we will make sure Chongor, the Swiss Army knife of Pensado's Place, will get you all the information, everything that you need. Give us, before we wrap it up, give us your take on, are you hopeful about the music scene? Are you pessimistic about it?
The local music scene or national? Or?
Both.
Well, there's always hope, right? I mean, you have to, there's always that band that you haven't heard of that you're going to discover around the corner. You have to dig for it, but you'll find it. I hope that things, I don't know, I hope somebody comes out and just sort of has a bit of an edge and rebels and does something,
We need a hero. We need an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. Because I think, Dave, that's one of the things that becomes interesting, and sorry to go on a rant. I do think that as much energy needs to be put into supporting those special kind of people who lead us and that we get inspired by. Because they can put out the music, but if we can't find their point of view, if we can't hear what they're saying, if we can't see the platform.
Well, it's just a drop in the ocean of a self-release that disappears.
It
and,
just is gone.
It's
just
always better to live through your heroes than to
yeah.
suffer in reality.
Well, we have, the political environment might make for some good music, I'm sure, coming up.
I think there's some inspiration going on
Yeah,
out there.
yeah.
That's for sure.
And the environmental movement, too.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of the crazy thing is if you didn't, a lot of our audience didn't live through the '60s, it's kind of the '60s again, in terms of all the cultural shifts that were going on.
With a little WWF thrown in.
WWF. Well, I was
we
going to
got
go.
UFC now.
I was
Yeah.
going to go farther. I think that there was a violence component to the '60s that actually made the music really relevant because we attached it to big movements. Assassinations.
That's how Devo
attempts.
started Kent State.
Is that right?
Yeah, Jerry was there. They were there, and they shut down Kent State, and that's when they put together Devo, and it changed Jerry forever, supposedly, or Jerry and Bob, I think, were there.
I read that.
Now that's a classic example of what I think potentially, if you think about the the shootings that go on campuses, the terrorism stuff. And I think musicians have a chance now to start to speak about this and try to pull it together and utilize the platform to elevate themselves. At least that's what we hope for. So this was our first anarchist episode of Pensado's Place. I kind of liked it.
Kinda, yeah.
We should just get up and beat the shit out of Chongo or something.
Kick over the
He does
camera.
represent everything that's wrong with music. Not really. Speaking of discovering new music, Chongor is the person today I just got 2 new bands to listen to. So artists. So.
We were really excited when Isotope mentioned the kind of folks that we could potentially interview in Boston. I hope you enjoyed your time with us.
Absolutely, yeah.
We absolutely had a ball. We love what you're doing. Love that. It's fun to talk to somebody who is both current and cutting edge and still has the ethos of the past.
Right, and sort of midlife crisis.
It's a good place to be. And just a very cool Boston cap, too, right? Like, that's a Boston. It's got the little Boston turn in. Yeah, that's.
Without the accent.
Yeah, I want to go see the movie The Town right now.
Or The Departed.
Absolutely. I love The Departed. Absolutely.
Departed.
Dave, you want to wrap it up?
I'm going to take a risk. I don't think happy people make good music. I think you got to be pissed off about something. And all my favorite records were the outgrowth of either an introvert or a person that was angry about the political climate, angry about the literal climate. And maybe we should get a little pissed off, and maybe we shouldn't just accept everything as the status quo. As musicians, creativity never grows in a soil of harmony. It grows with a little pushback and little difficulties, and we live in an environment where there's a lot of good fertilizer, and I think musicians should take note of that. I could be wrong. It feels right, and I think that's kind of the thread that we kind of use as a foundation for today's show. So give it some thought. I might be right. I might be wrong. Check it out.
See ya.